Welcome to Fitness Explained, the podcast. I'm your host, Mil Waller. I'm a third-year sport and exercise science student, and I have a passion for exercise and helping others create a balanced and healthy lifestyle through understanding the science behind health and fitness. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fitness Explained, the podcast, the very first episode. I hope you are all doing well and having a great day so far. So first up, I thought I would let you know how the structure of the podcast is going to run. And since it is the first episode, I am going to introduce myself, what I'm all about, my relationship with fitness, as corny as that sounds, and even cornier, my journey with fitness, and how I got into this industry. So let's get started with how the structure is going to run. So I am for the first segment, I am going to tell you all about an item, exercise, product, task, or food I've been enjoying recently or in the past week. And then we are going to go to the main segment of the podcast. For this week, it is obviously going to be talking about myself. I mean, as awful and egotistical as that sounds, but how I have had a relationship with fitness and food and everything in between. And then that's the second part. And for the third part, it's going to be a question of the week. How that is going to run is that I'm going to answer a DM on Instagram that one of you have messaged me, or a question I have gotten frequently, and rather than individually reply to each message, I'll just make one question that relates to all of those similar style questions and make it the question of the week for the podcast. And if you do want to ask me any questions, please feel free to message me on Instagram. The handle is at fitness_explained_by_mil. Quite long, sorry about that. And also, before I do start, I'd like to apologize for any technical difficulties. I am not someone who is tech savvy in the slightest, so if there are any niggly sounds or just background noises that are a bit odd, I am sorry. I do have a small dog who is loud despite her size, and I do live in an apartment building and near a train line, so hopefully no disruptions will happen, but if they do, I am sorry for that. So I'm going to stop rambling and get started with what I have been enjoying recently in the past week or so. Now, bit of a random one, bit broad of a topic, but I have loved so much cooking my own food. My friends probably think I brag a bit way too much, but I love making up my own recipes, and I think it is something that is really important for people to know how to cook without a recipe. Now, it's not an essential, but if you can understand the basis of your ingredients and know what you're putting in your food, I think that is something that everyone could benefit from. How I like to structure my meals is I have a grain of sorts, a protein, and vegetables. Try to aim for at least 2 or 3. And then also I try to include fat in there, because obviously there are 3 macro ingredients, if you don't include alcohol, of protein, fats, and carbohydrates. So although there's also micronutrients, which are like vitamins and minerals, which I do try to have a balanced amount of, I try to always make sure that that is the base structure of my meal. So for example, my go-to lunch at the moment, although this is nowhere near what you would call cooking, it's just putting a bunch of food together, but is salads. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of rocket and baby spinach, but the last 2 weeks or so, I have been forcing myself to eat it. And now I tolerate it. I don't like it. I don't dislike it. I'm just in a neutral zone with rocket and baby spinach. So what I've been doing is putting a bunch of different lettuce, rocket, spinach that you get from like Farmers Market, Parade Market, Queen Vic, South Melbourne, wherever you go, and wash that obviously. Add vegetables, so capsicum, tomato, cucumber, olives, and I love adding feta because I love feta. Goat feta, cow feta isn't real feta, in my opinion. And then I will put, most likely, tuna as my protein because I can get the fats from there, I can get the proteins from there, I can get some micronutrients like omega-3, and then I can also include the oil that comes in the can because I don't really like the in whatever water solution that you can also get tuna in. I like to buy it in the oil. And that is my dressing, and then I put the tuna in and the vegetables and the feta, and then balsamic because, I mean, balsamic's awesome. And that's what I've been doing a lot. I also make vegan burgers with the Beyond Meat mince, and try to add greens on the side and then a side of vegetables. Normally it would be roast potatoes or sweet potato, and just trying my best to put healthy, as minimally processed as possible ingredients, wholesome food. If I would never describe what I eat as clean eating. I think that's the most, pardon my language, but wankerish term I've ever heard, clean eating. Like, it's like no, you're not eating bleach. Stop. Don't call it clean eating. I just like to eat wholesome food that fuels me, food that makes me feel full, satiated, satisfied, whatever you want to describe it as. And so I have the minimal desire to eat foods that aren't nutritionally dense, like lollies, caffeine, because sometimes if I'm not eating properly, I will have a lot of caffeine to try and keep me going because I'm not feeling the energy or getting the right amount of energy from my food. But that's enough about that. Now to get onto the main topic of the podcast for this week, which is me. In all seriousness, I wouldn't describe it as a negative journey with fitness, but probably mostly positive. But I have had my fair share of ups and downs, much like anyone else with fitness. If you've only had positive experiences with fitness, you're lying. I'm joking. Fitness should be a positive thing, but I think sometimes it is unavoidable from time to time to have only good experiences in the fitness industry, particularly where we are constantly bombarded with information that is both negative and positive online, and like through Instagram influencers and whatnot. But anyway, I digress. So I was born into a family of, I've got a sister, I've got mum and dad. Mum and dad divorced when I was 12. So I've always had two households, both of which aren't really that focused on fitness and nutrition. Mum did tennis when she was younger. Dad did footy and basketball when they were younger. But like most people, when they turn 18 / leave high school, stop. And I wasn't very pushed to do much sport. Like, I did tennis lessons, but I hated them because I would do anything as a child to get out of any aerobic exercise, and consequently I had a terrible aerobic ability until probably I was 19, because at 19 I was like, I better get myself together and do some aerobic exercise and not just do strength training. Did tennis, and then in high school I sort of branched out and did a whole bunch of other sports. I was a pretty advanced, I don't know what you'd call it, diver. So springboard diving, platform diving, from the age of 11 to 17, so like 8 years in total. Start of 11 till like end of age 17. I competed for Victoria a couple times, and I love diving. Like, I used to go to bed thinking of diving. I was quite obsessed. So it went from going and doing from like the ages 13 or 14, I think it was. I went from doing hardly any sport at all, like maybe a couple hours a week, to, oh my gosh, I'm doing 16 hours of diving a week. And I got pretty fit with that. I got very strong legs from that. I still would describe myself as someone that really likes training legs and not much else, if I'm going to call out my bad qualities. And so, yeah, and then I got injured a fair bit with overuse injuries, by no one in particular's fault. But I thought, this isn't, like, how people are treating my injuries and how people are going about it just isn't okay. Not that they were doing a bad job, they just were doing what they knew. And I thought that I can make this better. I want to improve the industry. And so that's how and then I was seeing a bunch of different allied health people, chiropractors, nutritionists, or not nutritionists, dietitians. Don't see nutritionists, see a dietitian if you want some dietary help. Physios, so many physios. I was seeing, like, going to see MRI people, radiologists, whatever. And it was mostly in my knee. It was just overused, but we couldn't quite figure out what it was. But hindsight is a great thing. So yeah, I thought in year 11, I thought, I think I want to go into sport and exercise science. I previously wanted to go into physiotherapy, but then I thought, maybe I actually do want to go into sport and exercise science, when I went on a tour of La Trobe, in like year 10 or 11, and I thought it was a really cool industry that was not starting, but it was starting to have some really cool things that could impact me and my life as an athlete. And I thought, I want to be in this industry. It looks really cool. So as soon as I finished year 12, I went and did sport and exercise science with La Trobe. I'm currently halfway through my third year, so only 6 months to go. Yes, I am nervous about what I'm going to do with myself when I finish. I'm probably going to try and do my exercise physiology masters, or an honours, and then my masters. I don't know if they accept me. I hope so. I will just do whatever I can do in that regard. And I didn't really have much of a negative experience with food, though. I've always loved food, like, since ever. I didn't really have many body issues. I mean, in year 12, as I explained the other day on an Instagram post at Fitness Explained, I did gain like 5 or 6 kilos, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that much, but I'm currently like 64, 65, depending on which phase of my period cycle I'm on. Sorry to drop the P word there if you're sensitive about that, but I'm probably going to mention it a lot. But yeah, as many women know, or if you don't know, now you do know, your weight is naturally going to fluctuate, particularly if you do have a menstrual cycle, because that's just how the hormone system works. So yeah, I now reside at 64, 65 kilos, but I went to like 70 kilos towards one part of year 12 because I would stress eat, and I didn't realize I wouldn't call what I was doing binge eating, but what I was doing definitely wasn't helpful to me and wasn't healthy. So yeah, I think after year 12 I sort of recognized I eat when I'm stressed, and I also don't eat nutritionally dense foods when I'm stressed. I eat probably not very nutritional foods, and so I thought, I don't like how I am. I don't want to continue this way, so I'm going to change my lifestyle. So I started eating healthier. I started eating more nutritionally dense foods. I started going to the gym regularly, not too much. I didn't go twice a day or anything, but I did go 5 or 6 times a week. And I lost the weight. I went to 64, 65 kilos, which is what I am now. I probably am 66, not that I weigh myself anymore because of isolation and not being able to go to the gym, which I sort of depend on, for lack of a better word, to stay in my optimum weight range, which for me is 64 to 65 kilos. And yeah, that is basically everything that I have in terms of my fitness journey. I know I said I hate that word, but, well, not hate. It irks me, that term, because it just sounds like a lot. But I think I had pretty, I wouldn't say normal, but like not extreme journey with fitness. I'd say it's pretty average, except for the whole being a high performance athlete. So as I said, this is the part of the segment where we have a question of the week. Now, I've been getting a few DMs about what my fitness journey is, so that's my fitness journey for you. I guess another question that I can answer is what my diet looks like, in the terms that, like, what would I define myself? And I used to be a pescatarian, and then before that I was a vegetarian, and then before that I was a pescatarian. So yeah, the sequence has gone pescatarian, vegetarian, pescatarian, and now I eat a vegetarian diet plus fish / seafood and chicken and duck, like once a year, maybe twice a year, maybe. I try to only eat sustainably sourced. That is the reason why I don't eat pork and red meat, is the sustainability factor. It's not because I feel sorry for the animals, but I mean, that's a good bonus. I mean, I don't kill any cows or pigs in my diet, but I personally am going to call myself out in that I would be vegetarian. I felt comfortable in being a vegetarian, but I am lazy when it comes to cooking. I am really bad at meal prep. I'm getting better, but I wouldn't say I'm good in any word of the sense of the word, I mean. And yeah, so I would maybe consider being vegetarian again for the environmental reasons. But currently I am just trying to eat organic, free-range chicken, maybe once, twice a week, at most 3 times a week. And then fish, same thing, once, twice a week. That salad I mentioned before, I probably do eat like twice a week, actually. So yeah, fish maybe 2-3 times a week, now that I think about it. But I do try and get a lot of my protein from meat alternatives, like the Beyond Beef mince I mentioned. I think it's called Veggie Delight, the brand, but what I love about them is they have B12 in their products, which is something that a vegan diet just doesn't have any of, because you get B12 from animal products. But then, as I mentioned, I love feta, and I have feta like 5 times a week. And I love cheese, but I am also lactose intolerant, meaning I cannot have the sugar lactose in my diet because it makes my bowel movements really troubling and I get really bloated. Yeah, that is a completely irrelevant point, but if you are noticing you're bloated and you think it might be related to diet, maybe cut out some foods that you notice you sort of react to, or maybe you don't even realize you're reacting to, because I didn't realize I was lactose intolerant until I was 19. So I was just living my free bloated self until I was 19 years old. My sister and my half brother are lactose intolerant too, and my dad a little bit. So yeah, it's just a lactose intolerant family. But yeah, that is one pro tip, I guess, for lack of a better term, is go and see an allergy specialist or a GP or a dietitian to see if you're allergic or intolerant to foods if you are suffering from bloating. Sorry, very random, but back on track. Yeah. So things I don't eat: red meat, pork, anything with lactose. 90% of the time, will admit I do like, if there's ice cream available and none of it is lactose free, I probably will have like a scoop and a bit, because I love ice cream, and I will just suffer the consequences. So yeah, those are basically the only things I don't eat. I try to eat as many vegetables as I can, and I don't want to restrict anything from my diet as well. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this first episode. I have loved speaking, and please DM me if you have any questions, or if there's anything you want me to talk about in one episode. I would love that. But thank you so much for listening. And now I'm going to give a little bit of a disclaimer. If I've used any references in my episodes, which I obviously haven't today because it's all anecdotal, I will list them in either the show notes or the caption, or I will list them somewhere for you to access and read. And please note that this podcast and on this platform is general in nature. It is not tailored to specific needs. If you are struggling with mental or physical health or well-being, please seek a medical professional or allied health professional, such as a registered psychologist, registered and qualified dietitian, not nutritionist, like I said before, registered GP, registered exercise scientist or physiologist. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.